Well, I certainly will start with trying to see in what kind of world are we living, in fact. So we can talk about education, but first we have to see the whole picture. And I think when you walk around, when you speak to people, what you see is that we are pretty concerned. It's not going fine. I don't want to be one of those very old men in the Muppet Show who from the sideline just give criticism and the comments. But I think we have to start there. And what we see, there are a lot of problems in terms of mental health, in terms also of how the economy is running. We see the challenges that we have in terms of the climate and worldwide also the gap, the poverty gap that is growing. All these things are there. When you open the papers, you are confronted with many aspects that are really very worrying. At the same time, we see that policy is not really able to cope with it. Even at the world level, when you see what happens in Aleppo, this is really terrible. So that's one picture, and I think we can't look away from that. But at the same time, again and again for me, it leads to the conviction that yes, there is a way out. There is a way out. Education is the way out because that's the place where human beings are made, if you want. And I include certainly what happens at home and family is part of all that. So that's our business, in fact. We shape people together with them in partnership. They are in fact the essence. They are shaped in a way that they shape themselves. That's part of how we deal with that. And there, for me, it's very clear that there are several dispositions and competences that really should be addressed in a more explicit way than we do today. Well, we know mental health is one of the things. So to be well in your skin, if we can achieve that for every human being, it should be possible to get that at that point. What kind of misery and pain and problems in society would then disappear? Aggression, delinquency, depression, suicide is very high in our country, by the way. So all these things are there because people do not feel okay in their skin, and we need to address that as a first element indeed, because that's the basis. And from there, well, indeed, the understanding of the world, technology and all these things are crucial, but it's not enough to just put it on the agenda and on the curricula. The key point is, do people and children develop more than just knowledge? For me, knowledge is nothing if it doesn't change the way you look at things and the way you create, you construct the world, the way you have a grip to the essence of what the things are and what people are, what society is. You get that gut feeling. I used the word intuition. In the past, I didn't want to do that because people think, oh, flower power and the 68 period. But intuition is the key point of competence. In fact, in all areas and all professions. An engineer without intuition, without a kind of capacity to imagine the reality, can be very, very intelligent if you want, but will not be the best engineer. And the same counts for policymakers. If you make policy, you need to have an imagination. You have to imagine what a measure that you take will bring about below there where the real life is taking place. So we need also people that are entrepreneurial. We see it already, very young children. After 3-4 months, you can see already that children take initiatives for the better. What do we do with all that capacity? Social competence, indeed, very critical. And working together is essential. Look at the European context, the world context even. Working together is not there. It's fighting against one another. So we need to address that. And again, people say, well, there is no hope. Well, I think education is the only hope we have. How can we construct an education system in such a way that you really develop that potential? So not just mathematics and language and numeracy and those kind of things. The other things are at least as important, if not even more. Yeah, and then comes the question, can education do it? And I think we've learned so much the last decades. There's so much expertise available worldwide that makes very clear what we have to do. And our project, Experiential Education, certainly has contributed to simplifying the problem and the solution. Because what we say is very simple. We say, make sure that every child is having high levels of well-being and involvement while the child is in your educational setting. Simple. Just two elements. If you have the woolen ball, you just take these two ends and then start to unravel it. So we see a child with low level of well-being, and we know then we have to address that. We have to ask ourselves, why is it low here in this setting? Maybe the material is too demanding, maybe the group climate is not okay, maybe the interaction with the adult is not sensitive enough to really help this child to feel okay. And if a person doesn't feel okay, certainly in the early age, it bounces back. It leads gradually to a problem that is a structural problem in the person himself. Is losing contact with his or her own emotions and feelings, and that's the start of a lot of problems later on in life. So well-being is a simple indicator. If it's not there, the child is not doing fine, we will have problems. And the child will have a lot of suffering, and the environment of the child as well. But well-being is not enough. So we need more, because we want to develop the potentials, and well-being is not enough for that. For that we need a second indicator, which is very simple as well. It's involvement, engagement, something Montessori noticed already in very young children, where she said this capacity of a young child to concentrate is the expression of the creation with capital, creation. Force of creation is there in the child that is concentrated. I've seen that concentration in my own children very early, my grandchildren very early. The second week already I could say this is involvement. Probably because I'm obsessed with that idea, but you can spot it. Every parent enjoys it when she sees the child really engaged in play and surprising us again and again with what she or he is doing. So well-being involvement. And that gives the teachers, the adults, the practitioners a very clear guide to do things, to change it if we don't have enough well-being and involvement. And the nice thing about it, it's kind of reward. When you see a child blossom up, it's the most beautiful thing one can experience. When you see children concentrated and having synergy, the flow of energy, that's life. You are touched, and you know that's all right. You know that is all right. You can't do more and better if you have it. Of course, it will have implications for the educational structure and how we deal with children every day. It means that they need a rich environment and not just slices and pieces of that reality. We know already from the new school movement with Dewey and Frenet and others that the reality is the real master. That's where, if you have a rich environment, half of the job is done, because children have an exploratory drive and will engage in trying to understand and grasp things. So a rich environment is there. And we see a rich environment certainly in the early years, but gradually you ask yourself, where is the reality? The real thing, complex thing. And then we have indeed an open framework approach, like iScope has advertised and developed. An open framework approach means that that children have room to take initiative in that rich environment. And it certainly doesn't mean that the adult has a low profile and has to walk away and let it happen and be permissive, etc. No, because an open framework means, like Highscroft describes it, high level of initiative of children and of adults, but not separate. The adult is not sitting somewhere and having a lot of initiative there and children elsewhere. No, together. It means that you cannot just plan every step that you will have. You make it together with children. You are open for that world. They want to explore that. So you inspire one another. If you look at some educational processes, if you can say that there has been a high influence of both, then we are in the open framework. So that you influence one another. And that leads for me to the idea that we absolutely underestimate children. And strange enough, we don't not only underestimate young children, but also the youngsters. And the system is not developing them in the right way. So we can be very pessimistic about the future, but I predict that at a certain point the youngsters will bypass the education system. There is enough on the internet to do. They don't need the education system if they think. It would be a pity, because we need a firm interaction between all the generations. So they will make their own school. They can, if they can start doing it today. But that's not the ideal world. We need to change the system itself to make sure that they will remain and flourish and make the school together with us. And finally, I think when I think about the role of the adult, well, is huge in terms of interaction, sensitivity, stimulating interventions, and certainly giving autonomy, and the relation. Everything in education is based on a good relation. We can't skip that. If it's not there, you will lose a lot of power and energy. In fact, together you lose that energy. Where do we learn all these things? Numeracy and literacy. It's just a lower thing on that ladder. It's really, it's not the first thing. But it's important as well. But it's part of the exploration of the world and feeling stronger. That's what we need. So I think what I feel anyways is that what I want to achieve in that talk just in a few minutes is the hope, the word hope, and the idea, yes, we can, because that's one of the positive elements of all this story. You can't change the IQ of a child overnight, and even if you work hard at it, if it would be possible, it would be very, very difficult to change an IQ from 110 to 120, for example. But you can change how a human being feels and thinks about him or herself overnight. Well-being and involvement can be improved in a short time, and there's no reason whatsoever to say, no, we can't do that. For IQ, it's more difficult, not for well-being and involvement. So, empowerment, that's what I want to achieve.